we're going to read, I guess 2 people can read. Although it's not that long. To the end of the chapter. And then we're going to 1 minute.
No, you're good.
Go ahead. Okay, somebody start reading at 13.
And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make it rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits, its breadth 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. Make a roof for the ark, and finish it to a cubit above, and set the door of the ark in its side. Make it with lower, second, and third decks. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh in which is the breath of life from under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall come into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your son's wife with you. And of every living thing of all flesh, you shall make 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of the birds according to their kinds, and of the animals according to their kinds. Of every creeping thing of the ground according to its kind. 2 of every sort shall come into you, to keep them alive. Also take with you every sort of food that is eaten, and store it up, and it shall serve as food for you and for them. Noah did this, he did all that God commanded him.
Okay. Now, pull up the comparison between Gilgamesh and Genesis and the flood. It's 2 pages. And have fun. Okay. We have a hero in each story, right? We have Noah, and we have Utnapishtim. Genesis says that they have 120 years. Okay. They have 120 years to get themselves into a better condition than the sinful condition they were in. Gilgamesh says that they had 3 famines to clean up their act. Okay? Now, look at the dimensions of the ark. Gopher wood? We have never figured out what gopher wood is. Some people say cypress. Some say cypress.
Teak's good for long furniture.
The Hebrew Bible, Tanakh, says it was reed. Okay? And that the ship that Noah made was a freight ship. Gilgamesh says it was made of wicker. What was it?
Kontiki?
Kontiki.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kontiki came across the Atlantic, and it was reed. So, it's pretty sturdy.
Just couldn't bring the hippopotamuses, and rhinoceroses.
Yeah.
Pop a hole in it.
Okay. Genesis says it was 3 stories. Gilgamesh says 7. Genesis says there was an opening for light all around the top. Gilgamesh says it had 1 door and 1 window. They both say that it was pitched. One says asphalt, the other one says bitumen, but those are pretty much the same stuff. And you'll run into that when we get to Abraham and pitch and asphalt. I was amused to find that Gilgamesh says they have punting poles. they are going to pole this thing. You've seen British punters punting boats. Well, they have punting poles, and they are going to punt this ship.
These are people who've never seen Gusher.
What's right? I don't know.
Okay. Look at the dimensions. 200 feet, 300 cubits by 50 cubits. It's an exact cube in Gilgamesh. But it's interesting that you have the whole thing laid out. I mean, both ships are totally described. Who are the occupants of this ship? Okay, we've got Noah, his wife, 3 sons, and their wives. You have Utnapishtim, his wife, and his family. They have goods and gold. They are not going unprepared. They also have craftsmen with them. They are going to rebuild after this thing, and wise men to write the history. That's a pretty good plan. They have beasts, okay? They have sheep and oxen on the Gilgamesh side. And because this part of the story is written by the priestly redactor, he tells you that they have clean and dirty animals. Okay? You can tell it's the priest speaking. 7 pair of clean beasts, 1 pair of not clean, and in the Yahweh's story there are 2 of every species. So you have a conflation of 2 stories together in the Genesis story. You have the priest and Yahweh both telling this story. Okay. When does the flood begin? 600th year of Noah's life, sure enough. In the 2nd month on the 17th day, or maybe on the 27th day, depending whose version we're reading. Gilgamesh says it was the 15th of May. What was the cause? Rain and eruption of subterranean water, a flood, a deluge of water, heavy rain, a hurricane, floods of waters, a cyclone. A hurricane or a cyclone, pretty much the same thing in different parts of the world. Okay? A flood from the sea. Now, remember your map? Okay. The red circled area is Babylon, and the Tigris and the Euphrates end in Babylon at the Persian Gulf. If you get a tsunami from the Persian Gulf caused by a hurricane or cyclone, whatever you want to call it, and it pushes a tsunami up onto Babylon, you get one amazing flood. 400 miles of it. An archaeologist has found the remains 20 feet of silt. His name was Woolley. 20 feet of silt over that area with a civilization below it, silt, and a civilization on top of it. Something happened. Okay? Something happened. And we're not sure whether it's a legend or a genealogy story or, whatever it is. The people thought it was their whole world. Now, if you take that map and put a compass point at the bottom of Babylon, okay, put a compass point here, and draw a 400-mile circle, you cover most of the known world at that time. Was it a universal flood? We don't know. But an interesting thing, and I did some research for this for a geography class I took at Tulane, almost every primitive civilization in the world has a flood story. That goes down to the bottom of South America. They have a flood story. Their Indians have, their native people have a flood story. Think about that. So, conjecture with me for a moment. Think about the end of the last ice age and the glaciers melting. And all that water from glaciers that in the United States came down as far as Long Island, if you can think of a map where New York City is. If all that water from the Ice Age melted and ran off into the seas and rivers, what would you have? I would imagine a flood. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I would imagine we had one heck of a flood. And if we don't get careful, we're going to have another one. Because they're melting the glaciers as fast as they can with all this carbon. And I'm from New York, and having seen the effects of Sandy this past winter, and the subways filling up with water, I am not a happy camper about my city going underwater. Or Mobile. Or New Orleans.
Colorado.
Look at Colorado and the rivers. Would you like to see the Grand Canyon fill up with water?
That's a lot of water.
That's a lot of water, and we could have it happen. You know, this is, the Bible may not be literally true, but the human situations in it are human situations. And what they can do, we can do. Think about it. I mean, you know, I love the biblical stories of Genesis because they're so doggone like us. We're not too far different from them. I'm preaching, and I shouldn't. My calling. Okay. How long was the flood? 40 days and 40 nights. What did we say about the number 40? Long enough. Okay? It was long enough. What did we say about 7 in the ancient world? Completed. Isn't it interesting? One says long enough, the other one says until completion. Okay. Next page. The result of the flood. Genesis says there were 15 cubits of water above the mountains. That's a lot of water. Gilgamesh says that everything was silent. The reason for their flood was because the young gods were fighting and making too much noise. Okay? Genesis, all the creatures had been wiped off the earth. Gilgamesh says mankind had turned to clay, and that's going to be important at the end. Okay? The landing, a mount in Ararat according to Genesis, and that's in Armenia. It's on the border between Soviet and Turkey. And they have looked for it forever. People have been looking for the ark, and I have a lovely Skylab in 1974 showed something, possibly man-made on the mountain at Ararat. And an L-shaped timber was found in 1955 in an icy crevice 13,500 feet up the mountain. Carbon dating shows that it's only about 1,200 years old. It ain't old enough to be Noah. The tree was chopped down around 700 AD, so it's a new piece of wood comparatively. But they believe that it was the remnant of a shrine built by monks on that mountain. And I love it. I just love it. It's the final link in the chain of sin stories, is the destruction. But then there's some grace. And I know that's a New Testament word, but there's some grace even in the Old Testament, and you'll run into it every so often. Okay. Noah built an altar, and he made an offering of burnt animal. Okay, burnt animal. Utnapishtim sacrifices an animal, and the gods fight over the cooked meat. They're very human gods. They're not elves. And it's a Yahweh story. The sacrifice is to appease God. The sacrifice is to appease God. And gratitude for having survived, I hope. Enlil, the high god in the Gilgamesh story, has Utnapishtim kneel and touches him and his family's foreheads in blessing. And Utnapishtim, remember Gilgamesh looking for him in the abode of the gods? He gets translated to the abode of the gods and is clothed with divinity and immortality. Okay, remember immortality in Genesis 2? And the fact that we don't have immortality? Okay. Utnapishtim does, while Adam and Eve don't. The divine blessing in Genesis, he has dominion over the animals given to Noah. Please, not domination, dominion. The right to eat animals. Up until now, he's been a vegetarian, probably a vegan. But now they have the right to kill and eat animals and sacrifice them. Okay? Noah cannot be slain by man or beast. Noah is transported. Okay? The covenant is the rainbow sign that God would never again destroy the earth. Look at the Gilgamesh. Eo, one of the gods, one of the female gods, recites an incantation over a lump of clay and pinches off 14 pieces of clay, 7 males, 7 females, 7 are sent to the left, 7 to the right, with a brick between them, and I don't know why. But there are 14 new human beings in the Gilgamesh story. And we have Noah and his family and what would be their children in the Noah story. I think it's amazing. I just think it's a tremendous, tremendous work of art on both sides of this story. I just think it's great. Do I believe in the Bible literally? Oh no. Oh no. We have lots of reason not to believe in it literally. Do I take it seriously? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay? But isn't that a wonderful thing to know? All of this comes from a little book called The Babylonian Genesis. I don't know if you've seen it. I have 2 versions of it. One is story form, and the other one is the actual translation of the cuneiform. And that's heavy going, but the story is interesting. And I was able to do this from the story. So, for those of you who are teaching Noah or who are teaching Genesis, have fun.
We have been, I hope.
I hope this has been helpful.
I like it.
Good. Okay, that's Noah. Anything else you want to know about Noah? Let's go on and start.
I do have one question, not about Noah, but about Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Does it say in the story why instead of just eating the plant, he was hauling it around with it?
I don't know. It just says that he died. He's supposed to eat it and live forever, but he doesn't. And he's taking it home. And the snake steals it.
He fooled around too long.
You heard about Adam and Eve. Maybe he was a hoarder.
Yeah.
Well, they the wrong one.
Okay. We've got time to go on and start Abraham if you are willing to do that. Okay, where are we? We are in the fertile crescent, okay? And Abraham is in Ur, which is down there. If you look at the map, you will see where he starts out. He starts out in Ur. I want to talk a little bit about Ur. No, I'm going to start someplace else. With Abraham, you get the beginning of folk history. These are real folk stories. We had legends in the early part of Genesis. Now we have folk stories. These are rooted in some kind of history. Are they true? Are folk stories ever true? We have a whole raft of American folk stories. Yeah. Big people, right?
Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan and the guy who laid track and
Johnny Appleseed.
and Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah.
We have loads of folk stories. And some of them are based on real people. They really are. They're based on real people. Johnny Appleseed really existed, and he carried Appleseed all throughout the Midwest. So some of them are real. Some of these stories not only are based on people who really existed or upon the tribes whom they are eponyms for, but they are based in real historical documents. There's a document to back up almost every one of these stories, and I hope I can show you some of those documents as we go along. but the documents exist that these stories are based on. And they're wonderful stories. They're stories. The Hebrews were magnificent storytellers. Not only Genesis, we ever get into Judges, Judges particularly, great stories. But anyway, the Israelite community, the community that wrote Scripture, gave confessional expression of their faith by enumerating and interpreting a number of decisive events in their history. The patriarchs, the delivery from Egypt, the divine guidance in the wilderness, the giving of the law on a sacred mountain, and the settlement of Canaan. What is that? That's the story of the Pentateuch, the whole first 5 books. That's the history that the nation and the religion recounts. For those of you who've had Seders with me, they memorialize these stories year by year by year. We have a lectionary. Honey, they have a lectionary. You know, I mean, their lectionary is as laid out as ours is. That's what caused me to fall in love with the Old Testament. I was in a Jewish school going to synagogue every Saturday, and I was hearing wonderful stories. So, you know, it was great. And fell in love with the Old Testament. I want you to turn to Psalm 105. Am I interspersing the Psalms through some of this yet? Because the Psalms show what becomes of this stuff later. Psalm 105. We're not going to read the whole thing. Look at verses 5 through 11. Somebody. Can I get a reader?
Remember the wonderful work he has done, his miracles, and the judgments he has uttered. O offspring of his servant Abraham, children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God, his judgments are in all the earth. He is mindful of his covenant forever, of the word that he commanded for 1,000 generations. The covenant that he has made with Abraham, his sworn promise to Isaac, which he confirmed to Jacob as a statute, to Israel as an everlasting covenant, saying, to you I will give the land of Canaan as your portion for inheritance.
Okay? That's Abraham's story. We're changing